Hi everyone and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be introducing a very tasty treat for people to enjoy.
Okay, I like a tasty treat.
Well, what are some of your favorite treats in general?
Oh, now you've put me on the spot. My favorite tasty treats, well, it kind of depends what mood I'm in. I like ice cream occasionally, but not that often. But one thing I might always be willing to try, and also because they're not big, I love a good cookie.
Okay.
I like me a good cookie. It can be a chocolate cookie, a peanut butter cookie. I even like those oatmeal and raisin cookies. A lot of you are like, I don't like those. Because cookies, you know, they come in all shapes and sizes, all flavors, and really you can just eat one. So I kind of like me a good cookie.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm definitely an ice cream kind of person.
Yeah?
Any opportunity to have a bit of ice cream, I'm going to go for it with, but not really chocolate ice cream.
Okay.
That I always find it a little bit overpowering. Give me nut flavors, give me fruit flavors, give me
even a good vanilla.
Yeah, decent vanilla ice cream, you know, especially if you can put a few things on it, you know. So if you like little bits of that's chocolate on there is okay.
Okay, like chocolate sauce.
Sprinkles or some, you know, some nuts on there. Even the amaretto where the coffee, is it? Not amaretto.
I don't know.
You get a coffee and you pour it on top of the vanilla ice cream.
Oh, okay. Affogato.
That's it. Affogato. Yeah. One of those every time. But what kind of sweet treat are we going to be talking about today? Let's read through day one and find out.
Reading.
Spain's sweet treat will make your mouth water. Do you sometimes crave some delicious youtiao for breakfast or brunch? If so, you'll find churros hard to resist. While both youtiao and churros are fried dough sticks, the former are savory and the latter are sweet. This means they can also be had for dessert. Churros are popular in Spain, Portugal, and Latin America, where they come in many styles and flavors. There are two common ideas about the origin of the churro. One says that the Portuguese brought youtiao back to Portugal from China and developed it into the churro we see today. The other thought is that Spanish shepherds fried up basic ingredients as an easier way of making a sweet bread. We might not know the true story, but the Spanish have been enjoying churros for hundreds of years now. These days, Spanish churros are often coated in cinnamon sugar. They can also be put into chocolate or dulce de leche, milk candy sauce. Portuguese and Brazilian churros are sometimes filled with jelly instead of dulce de leche. There are many churro styles to go for, so you're sure to love this sweet treat.
So the article starts with a question and asks, do you sometimes crave some delicious youtiao for breakfast or brunch? Well, yeah, every now and again. Yeah, what are they called? Salbing youtiao. Yeah, or in some
congee.
Yeah, or in some dojang. In the dojang, that's always good. That's the sort of thing you might crave. To crave is to really want something and you really want it right now. We often use it about foods or drinks where you want it so much you can almost taste it and you want that taste in your mouth. You want the feeling of it in your mouth and you just like, that's it. I've got to go out and I've got to find that thing because that's the only thing that's going to satisfy my need.
You're really, really, really hungry for one special kind of food. Nothing else will do. Sometimes people might crave brunch. Well, possibly because brunch is a slightly unusual meal. As you can see, we have taken the br from breakfast and the unch from lunch, and we've made a new word, brunch. And before you ask, no, there's no such thing as dinner. You can't take lun and linner or lun and supper and make a new word. It's only breakfast and lunch.
Not brinner?
You can't make brinner.
I want brinner.
No, you can't have
breakfast for dinner?
That's called lunch.
Oh.
Breakfast and dinner, lunch. But if you have your breakfast rather late or your lunch a little bit early, now we are talking about brunch. Brunch is usually served around 10, 11. I think traditionally it was something people had on Sundays after they came out of church. A lot of people in the West used to go to church at 9 or 10 in the morning, and then after you came out, maybe it was a little bit early for lunch. People still hadn't had breakfast, so they invented this meal brunch that's kind of breakfast and lunch. You can get a little bit of meat and stuff, and also some eggs and breakfasty food, and people kind of like it, especially on the weekend when you get up a little bit late, you sleep in a little bit, but you still want to have a good meal. Let's look at our example sentence. It says, oh no! It says here that the restaurant only serves brunch on the weekends. Yeah, it is often a meal people enjoy on the weekends when they have a bit more time to get together and eat.
Okay, so if you do like some youtiao, the article says if so, meaning if you do crave youtiao, you'll find churros hard to resist.
I want them, I want them, I want them.
Yeah, because to resist something means to kind of go, no.
I don't want them.
Yeah, I will hold out. I do not want this thing. I'm not going to let it affect me.
Please keep your churros away from me.
Yeah, if you could put on a spray that would help you resist the bites of mosquitoes.
That's good.
Or cream to resist the effects of the sun. So if you're saying, I can't resist this thing, that means I really want it. I've got to have it. I can't say no. For example, Lucinda couldn't resist the smell of baking cookies coming from the shop in the mall.
Lucinda's my sister.
Okay.
She's not, but she could be.
We
both love baking cookies, or at least the smell. Now, back to the article that says, well, both youtiao from here and churros from somewhere else are fried dough sticks. They are both those things. That's basically what they are, fried dough sticks. The former are savory and the latter are sweet. So here we understand that to mean the first one, the former, youtiao, are savory, meaning they're kind of salty and oily. They're not really a dessert as you would think of it. We often eat them with a salty soup or other kinds of bread or something like that. So they are savory. The latter, or the second one in that list, youtiao, churros, the latter, they are sweet. They are something you might have more as a sweet, as a snack, or for dessert. But both of them are basically dough sticks that have been fried. And what is dough? I will tell you right now. So what is dough? Dough is basically what we use to make all things that are baked, things like bread and stuff like that. But before you put the bread in the oven to cook it and make it rise and make it all puffy and brown and whatnot, you have this giant pile of stuff. That is your dough. Basically, it's flour with water, and you can add some other things to make it salty, or you can put in things like raisins or nuts to make a raisin or nut bread, whatever it is. But basically, if we're making bread or pasta, like for noodles, it's basically flour, water, and probably a little bit of salt. And you mix it together, and it kind of becomes this sort of ball. It's a very soft ball, and then we form it into different shapes, and then we cook it, and then we end up with noodles or bread or many, many other things, from cookies to pies to cakes. A lot of that stuff is made with dough, the basic stuff we use before we bake it into some kind of bread food. So this dough is long and thin, and then we put it in hot oil, cook it, and once it gets cooked, it becomes kind of hard, and it comes out as a stick.
Yeah, a stick is basically a long, thin piece of something. We often think of it as wood, you know, find sticks falling off trees, bits of branches, but you could have a stick of candy, so, you know, candy canes are kind of a stick form. You could have a stick of other stuff, a stick of dough, a stick of just bread, like breadsticks. And here's another example. Eric cut some celery and carrot sticks to eat with his sandwich. He just cut them into these long, thin shapes. And these are, the youtiao are savory, like you mentioned.
Yeah, savory, as I mentioned, is salty rather than sweet. This is the kind of word I guess I would think of this word mostly when talking about the snacks that I prefer. When people are watching movies, they might want a salty snack like popcorn with butter and salt, or something made with meat, or potato chips with salt on them. Or they might want a sweet snack, candy, chocolate, ice cream, or even put sugar on your popcorn, or
caramel.
you might want a combination of salty and sweet, those weird people who put the sugar and the salt on their popcorn. I'm a savory guy.
Okay.
I like the savory.
Well, what it does mean is that this means churros, can also be had for dessert.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So, you could have them as a snack or after your meal. If it's after your meal, we'd call it dessert. Dessert is what you eat after your main meal. The main idea is it's got a different taste. Generally, a main meal will be savory, meat flavor. You could have some noodles in soup, whatever it happens to be. So a dessert tends to have a sweet flavor. Or if it's a fruit, it could be a sour, sharper flavor. But it's also known as, it could be a sweet. You might see that on a menu. Sweets. Pudding is another word. Afters is a sort of casual term. What are you having for afters? Oh, I'll have some ice cream. Here's an example. Josh's favorite dessert is baked Alaska, which he always has on its birthday.
Wow.
So this is ice cream that's been in the oven.
Yes.
That's worthy of an article itself.
Absolutely.
One day. But we're doing
covered ice cream.
Yeah, we're doing churros right now.
Right. I think churros are a little bit easier to make than baked Alaska. That's more advanced cooking. But where would we find churros? Or, well, actually, we'll find them everywhere. Where are they from? It says churros are popular in Spain, Portugal, and Latin America, where they come in many styles and flavors. So they come from these countries that speak Spanish or Portuguese. Latin America, of course, is basically Mexico, all the way down to Argentina, these Spanish and Portuguese speaking parts of the Americas. And of course, because you can find these wonderful treats, these churros everywhere, they also come in many styles and flavors. A Spanish churro and a Mexican churro and a Peruvian churro might be quite different, which is great because you can travel around and try all the flavors. Let's talk about that word. So the flavor is the specific taste of something. Now, if I give you a food and say, taste it, and I say, do you like it or not? I'm not really asking about the flavor. I'm just asking if the taste is okay, is acceptable. If I say, what does it taste like? And you say, oh, this tastes like mint, or this tastes like lemon, or this tastes like orange, or something like that, that is the flavor. Often we have foods that come in various different styles, and they all have slightly different flavors, and people will buy or choose or make them in the flavor they enjoy. Potato chips come in many flavors, right? You can have barbecue flavor, fish and shrimp flavor, salt and pepper flavor, ice creams, as we mentioned, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. These are different flavors as well. Now, sometimes we add different foods, so you wouldn't really say flavor of pizza, because even though all pizzas are different, they're made different by adding a lot of different things to them. So it's really just something that has one taste, but we can have it in many different tastes or many different flavors. Here's a question probably asked by a foreigner visiting a local Japanese or Taiwanese donut shop. What flavor is this donut? It tastes like green tea. Yeah, for many people in Western countries, a green tea flavored donut, or matcha flavored maybe, might be kind of unusual, but it's a very good flavor.
Okay, so that's what a churro is, a sweet fried dough stick.
And they're found everywhere in many flavors, but where do they really come from?
The article says there are two common ideas about the origin of the churro.
Ooh, okay.
Like a lot of foods and dishes, there's never just one story.
True. That's true. No, not many foods were invented by one person in one place, and we remember it all. No, so what are the two stories? Where are they from, or what do they tell us? It says, one says that the Portuguese brought youtiao back to Portugal from China and developed it into the churro we see today. So the youtiao is the daddy of the churro, which is the little baby, or the one that was brought over and sort of invented in Europe, but really with an idea taken from here in China, or in the this area. And of course the Portuguese, Macau, they had a lot of time to taste and bring foods from like that from Macau back home. So maybe, yeah.
Okay, the other story, the other thought is that Spanish shepherds fried up basic ingredients as an easier way of making a sweet bread. So instead of just taking it and baking it, which takes a long time, it's like, oh, stick it all in the pan in some oil and cook it up. That'll do. Who did that? Shepherds. A shepherd is a person who looks after sheep, okay? They take them out into the hills, they let the sheep eat the grass, and at the end of the day, they bring them all back to the farm or area where they're supposed to be. That is the job of a shepherd. It almost looks like sheep herder, person who herds and looks after sheep. So you might say the shepherds sat on the hillside watching their flocks at night, because sometimes you do it at night as well.
That's true, and shepherds had to work far away from buildings or farms. They're out there on the hills with the sheep so the sheep can eat all the grass, so they have to be able to kind of camp out and cook food with things they can carry. They didn't have kitchens or restaurants nearby, so they had to make their own simple food that was still delicious. So that's why maybe up there on the mountainside, they would build a small fire, put in a pot with some oil, and then fry some dough. Pretty simple stuff, but when you use hot oil to cook, you are frying something, and we often use the phrasal verb to fry up something. Basically, we're talking about cooking this food, and probably food that we can prepare and cook quite quickly and casually. You fry up an egg or something like that. You wouldn't fry up a whole chicken, because that might take 40 minutes or something like that. But you fry up an egg or some bacon or something like that. You're using oil, you're using a hot pan. You can fry up some kong chin sai very quickly, stir frying it. So yeah, so basically they're cooking with hot oil, and they're doing it in a quick, convenient, fast way.
And they're using different ingredients. Of course, ingredients is food used to make other food.
Right.
Just the bits that you use to make the final dish.
There you go.
So those are our two stories.
All right, well, we might not know the true story, not without a time machine or something. It's not that important. So it says we might not know the true story, but the Spanish have been enjoying churros for hundreds of years now. It's true. People have argued about where noodles came from and all sorts of things like that. We probably won't know, but we can still enjoy the delicious food.
Now, in that sentence, we use today's language in focus, so let's check it out. So that sentence used a verb in the present perfect continuous tense. This is used to say that something started in the past and is still going on today. We generally give some kind of time frame to just say how long it's been going on. In this case, hundreds of years. We make this verb tense with have or has plus been plus V-ing form of the verb. I could say, for example, I have been living in Taiwan for almost 15 years. It started 15 years ago. I'm still living here now, so I have been living here for that long. So let's explore some of these different flavors.
That's true. There may be churros from many hundreds of different places and styles and all that, but when we buy them, especially not in Spain or Latin America, we often come across some more common versions. It says these days, Spanish churros are often coated in cinnamon sugar. Those are the ones I've had, but I've never been to Spain. I had them here in Taiwan, but they were definitely covered in sugar. That's why they were sweet. And something else that gave them a nice, unique taste, a little bit different from other things, was the lovely taste of cinnamon. Cinnamon is a spice. It's made from the bark or the wood of a tree. It's a little bit sweet. It's got a lovely smell to it, and we often use it to add a special cinnamon flavor when combining it generally with sugar in baked goods. You can put cinnamon on top of a pumpkin pie, you can put cinnamon in your cookies, you can put cinnamon on your coffee, and actually if you go to a lot of coffee shops these days, like Starbucks or someone, they'll actually often have a jar of cinnamon that you can shake onto your coffee just like you would shake salt or something onto your food. Cinnamon, of course, doesn't taste like salt, but you might put it on your coffee or your hot chocolate or something like that to give it that nice special cinnamon spice flavor.
But there's more you can do with this kind of churro. We see they can also be put into chocolate or dulce de leche, which is milk candy sauce.
Nice. So this is something you'd kind of dip it in, like you're dipping French fries into ketchup or something like that. You get this warm chocolate sauce or the dulce de leche, which is basically milk and sugar that's kind of been cooked down. So it's like a thick milk sauce or pudding, and that sounds lovely. Portuguese and Brazilian churros. So these are the Portuguese influenced ones, because of course in Brazil they speak Portuguese. Portuguese and Brazilian churros are sometimes filled with jelly instead of dulce de leche. Oh, okay, so it's inside the churro, but if you get it from Portugal, it might be more like one of those donuts with strawberry jam inside instead of chocolate or something else. And it is filled with. When we talk about a food being filled with something, generally there's a food with a space inside and we put more food of a different flavor inside there. So you can think about certain dumplings. These dumplings are filled with cabbage. These dumplings are filled with pork. Those dumplings are filled with shrimp, that kind of thing. We might not use it to talk about a sandwich, but I guess you could. But generally it's food that we might wrap around something and then cook it. The other food is on the inside, that it fills out the food in the same way that some donuts are filled with jam. In fact, they're called jam-filled donuts. Very hard to remember.
Yep, so in that sentence we use the phrase instead of, and that just means to have one thing and not another thing. We've presented one kind, now we're presenting an alternative. It's not this, it's this instead.
So chocolate-filled dulce de leche,
dipped.
Jam. You can dip things, all sorts of flavors with cinnamon, maybe even savory. As it says, there are many churro styles to go for, so you're sure to love this sweet treat. I don't want anyone saying, I don't like churros, I don't like the flavor. There are a million flavors. You can't possibly say that. There's a flavor out there that you will definitely go for. And if we say go for in this, we're not talking about going to the store. I'm going for a bottle of water at the store. No, we're talking about choosing something. Which one do you want? Oh, I'll go for that. Well, I'm going to go for this one. Basically means I'm choosing this one, I'm picking this one. This is the one I would like.
So that brings us to the end of our article. Tomorrow we're going to learn about how to make your own churros, but right now it's time for our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So the question is, have you ever tried churros? If so, do you like them? If not, would you like to try them?
I have tried churros.
Yes.
Only in Taiwan.
Okay.
More often at a movie theater.
Yes.
Once at a restaurant.
Okay.
So I do like them, but I would also like to try them again, maybe in Spain or Mexico or, somewhere like that. I did like them, but I kind of realized that maybe Taiwan doesn't have the best churros in the world. So, to go to a place that they come from would be great. But yeah, I think if you like a donut, you like a churro. It's not that different.
Yeah, I've had them with ice cream here, which, I like ice cream. That's a great one.
Yeah.
What I will say, though, is usually by the time I've got to the end of a churro, if it's a decent size, I'm feeling like I don't want any more. I find that after that much kind of cinnamon and sugar, and, it's fried, so there's some oily stuff in there as well, I'm like, okay, that's enough. It's not the sort of thing I'm going to go, you know what? Like a donut, you might go, I fancy another donut. But with a churro, I don't have that same feeling. I'm not craving a second churro straight away. So I'll probably space them out a bit and not have them very often.
Well, maybe it's because churros are quite big, so it's kind of like eating two donuts, but the same flavor of donut.
Yeah.
So you might get a little bored of it. But I understand what you mean. Break it in half.
Yeah, share it. That's a good way to do it. Okay, well, that's all we have time for today. But join us again tomorrow and we'll tell you how you can make your own churros at home. See you then. Bye for now.
Take care.
Vocabulary Review.
Brunch. Betty and her family eat brunch together every Sunday at 10 a.m. Resist. Jerry tried to resist eating some of the cake in front of him, but it looked too delicious. Stick. Martin went to the store and bought a box of cookies and a stick of butter. Dessert. A slice of apple pie with ice cream is Jim's favorite dessert. Flavor. Sally doesn't like sweet flavors, so she doesn't put any sugar in her tea. Shepherd. The shepherd is thinking about selling his sheep to buy some cows instead.
智慧小补帖。
Crave. Dough. Savory. Ingredient. Cinnamon.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net